Hello, it's Holly from My Daily Hades. I thought that I would show everyone how I assembled these Bucilla Gingerbread Santa felt ornaments, or at least one of them. I have all the bits and pieces here. This is one I just finished a few minutes ago. It doesn't take long. I cut some cording. They recommend using the green floss on the card. I've never liked the result of that. So I prefer to use something a little bit sturdier. And what I've done is I took this backing here, put it on a piece of cardboard, and then cut out, I traced this shape, this stocking shape, onto the cardboard. Then I cut the cardboard out about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the felt, so that the felt would have ample room to go around the edge of the cardboard, because the felt, you need to take a substantial bite of the felt, because it will pull away and your stitches will come out if you don't go in like 1/8 of an inch to do this. But it's literally, it's quite simple. And what I've done is I've cut a hole into the cardboard here so that I can put the cording into that hole, and I'll just stuff it in there. I did it a few minutes ago and it worked fine, and I thought, well, I better show you how to do it. Now it's getting a bit more tricky. Anyway, you just place it in there until you're happy with it. And then I will take some floss here. Now this is the Bucilla floss. I'm not overly keen on it. So what I'm going to do is take some beeswax and run it down both sides. It does make the thread a wee bit tacky, but it makes it a lot more manageable. So I'm willing to put up with the tackiness of the thread for that reason. And I've had this wax block for, well, it's part of a wax block, the bar that I had, and I'm still using it years later, so it's not like you go through loads of it, and it's quite inexpensive on the internet. And I'll just do the loop start on this. So there's the loop. First and foremost, I secure the cording through the cardboard. I've got a sharp needle here, and if I can go through a few times and secure that so that it won't, whoops, sorry, I just bumped you. So I don't bump and secure it so it won't come out so easily. Oh, there we go. I've already started tearing the paper. What I will do, since I've done that, is run it through the top of it. There. And then take a deeper bite into the cardboard there, so to make sure that I've secured it enough. I don't want it pulling out later on. That's one side, and then I'll do this other side, making sure to straighten it up so that it's not too twisted there. And try, that one dodged the bullet there. Try to run this through this other side of the cording. There we go. There we go. Also, it will be secured when you sandwich it in between the felt. So I'll put it there. And you can see there's quite a good distance from the edge of the cardboard to the to the edge of the felt. And I like to kind of space it in between here and take a good few stitches there. This next stitch, I will go through the cording yet again. This is kind of hard because of the cording it is. I was using the silver cording earlier, and that's a little bit easier because it's flat instead of circular cording. But it still works. And now I'm just going to go along and I think this is called a whip stitch. And just go along the whole edge there. I will probably run out and have to restart my thread again. But this way, you don't have, putting cardboard means you don't have to fight with the batting or this cotton wool or whatever. I have done ornaments in the past. It's just so troublesome to keep in the stitch it either gets stuck in your stitches or it seems to poke out everywhere, and it's just a pain in the tushy to do it. So I prefer to do it this way. It gives it enough body. I don't need it to be soft for any particular reason. It's just going to be hanging on my tree. Oh, goodness gracious. There we go. I see what I was saying about that stitch. It kind of slipped out through so I need to go a wee bit deeper to make sure that bit is secured. If you get too close to the edge, it will pull out. Not that it's a huge deal because the next stitch will catch it. So it's not like you're taking enough stitches along the edge of the project that you don't. It's not like something's going to slip out. So if it was cotton batting or if it were filling or something loose in there, yeah, it would cause a problem. But because you're just dealing with the cardboard, you don't have to worry about a minor gap here or there. This is more, I'm doing so many stitches more for aesthetics than I am for securing the cardboard in. Because if I were doing like a stitch here, a stitch there, as long as I was doing just a few stitches along the way, it would be enough to keep it all together and it wouldn't be a problem. But I like the look of all this, the tidiness of all these stitches. I've really enjoyed this kit. Well, there's a bit of the center of a sequin there that's stuck to that. I've really enjoyed this kit, and I'm so tempted to get another one, just for another Christmas one, but I still have all those cross-stitch ones, stockings to do. So this will just have to be a very pleasurable interlude of working on these, and maybe in the future I'll do some more because these aren't as troublesome as I thought they would be. I had envisioned the sequins and beads being a real challenge, and surprisingly the whole setup was quite easy. I think the most challenging for me was actually the embroidery stitches, because of getting them to look nice and even, and obviously mine aren't nice and even, but they'll do. I'm not expecting perfection on my Christmas tree. It's more about the enjoyment of making them and being happy that I've put something on my tree that's handmade. So that's why I make things. I do enjoy making handmade things for my tree, and I've been doing it since I was a child. So it's a pleasure. And if the cardboard starts slipping out, just kind of squish it back in. It's not like it's a problem. The felt is very forgiving as well, but the cardboard on this instance is definitely not too big. It fits. It's just slipped, and it's just kind of can be a bit of a pain to get it to be in the right place. So for this, I did kind of like a quilt. What I was always taught is a quilting knot. You basically come in and put it through there, and you want to bury that knot a bit. You just run it through the fabric and come up later on down, and you don't see the fact. You can pull the pull the thread until the end kind of buries into the fabric there. And I'll just keep on going. Like I said, they don't take long to do, and it's almost like it takes about the same amount of time as treating the thread as it is just to do the sewing. It's such a fun project, and I think anyone, even a child with good enough hand-eye coordination, can either at least do the whip stitch on the edge, even if a parent or an older child did the beading. So it would be quite a lovely project to do as a family. Children seem to, or at least I keep reaching for my normal, there we go. I keep reaching for my normal cross-stitching needles. And I could use them, but this is a little bit sturdier, so when I'm going through the cording, I won't have so much of a problem. I was just listening to the Flosstube of Kendra Makes, and I've just recently discovered that she is doing heights. And she seems like such a lovely lady. She's done the Gypsy Caravan, is it the Gypsy Caravan by Amy Stewart? She did a mini, and I think she's done really well. And I've watched her years ago for knitting, or pretty sure it was knitting. And I kind of just went into another direction. Not that I didn't like her anymore, it's just sometimes your craft goes in a different direction. You kind of lose track of what the other person's doing. And that's the same respect. I think she's had 2 more kids since I watched her. But it's quite fun. It's quite fun to catch up with her again. And at the moment, I have been absolutely so excited to discover more and more new cross-stitch Flosstube people. And wonderful thing about watching Flosstube is you can imagine you're sitting in the same room as a person and they're just chatting away and you can stitch. And it kind of reminds me of when I was growing up, when I was a teenager. I didn't do cross stitch. I did my first cross stitch when I was 13, when I bought a project for Holly Hollybee project from Walmart. But in our house, I'd already done needlepoint at that point and some sewing on an old singer my great grandmother's singer, and I had done hand quilting. Made some very simple clothing to wear, and I'd been crocheting for years. I'd started crocheting when I was 7, but most of the time when I was a teenager, it was about either sitting down with your crochet or sitting down to hand quilt. Not that we were ever fancy. I mean, her hand quilting was very basic, and it was more about making something useful out of fabrics. And I still have, no, I don't have it anymore, but I did have at one point, I did have a quilt where it had fabrics from my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandmother, and my grandmother clothing that they worked on together. As my grandmother was just a small girl, 6 or 7 years old, and she was tasked to be underneath the quilting frame, and somebody would put the needle down and she'd put the needle back up in a similar place. And her mother and grandmother would be quilting it. It was a hexagon garden quilt. But when I was a teenager, my grandmother, we were making a quilt. We made a simple 9-block quilt, and it was made out of fabric from my great-grandmother's clothes and my grandmother's clothes. And yeah, it was 4 generations of clothes, fabric scraps from either things made or things worn by people, family members. So, and now the quilt has, the older fabrics have just dry rotted away. There's a few bits of scraps of them left, and I just couldn't ever throw the quilt away because it has so many different memories in there. Even has fabric in it from a little play suit that I had when I was little. And my grandmother, when I was in high school, made me some book covers for my high school textbooks, because you had to keep your textbooks in really good condition or else the school will charge you. So my grandmother made me some fabric book covers to protect my books. And it was, and I don't have those book covers anymore, but I do have that quilt with a few little squares of those book covers. And the fact that she spent the time making those for me. So anyway, getting back to this. There we go. Another one put together. Another one ready to go on my tree. And I'm very happy with that. I hope you find that helpful. This is just my way of doing it. There's so many different ways that people can do it if they're happy with. Some people just sew the felt sides together, you know, starting at the bottom. They sew around, they put the cording in, and then when they get to the gap, and then they start stuffing it with padding, yeah, with filling. So that would work too. Some people put a light cardboard in, and then when they get to the bottom or get to the side, whatever they left the gap, they stuff a little bit of filling in there. So it's got a little bit of stability in the filling. I just chose not to have the filling. And it should be sturdy enough and happy enough to go on my tree. I'm wishing you a lovely day, and thank you for joining me.